Um,
We are ending at 1:40, right?
yeah,
Sure.
yeah, we are live now.
Okay, so welcome to today's section of Learn Coding with us. Yes, today we'll be looking at intermediate CSS. Okay, this is just the part one bit of everything that we'll be doing. So the last time we met, we did our portfolio site with just HTML and some basic CSS. Okay, so I'm moving to advanced. We want to do something like this. Okay, have a more professional website with like everything detailed. So, okay. So we'll be doing something like this for the next couple of meetings. So by I think the third or fourth, everyone will have something like this. Okay, you do it on your own. Okay, so before we start, I have a challenge for you, a very simple challenge. So we are going to start a new project, okay? And I want you to create a folder called, you can name it anything, okay? But you can name it My Resume Site. And then you create an index.html and add the HTML backbone or the boilerplate to it, okay? Then give it a title. So this is the challenge one. After we will create a CSS folder and a style. Okay, we just create a style file, a style.css file, and then link up our HTML to CSS, and then make sure it's working. Okay, so I'll just go straight to that. You can create the folder anywhere. So let me have my folder here. And I can name it my resume site. Okay, so inside my VS Code, I'm just going to open that folder. On desktop. Right. Okay, then the next thing was to create an index.html. So I have my folder here. I can just add the file here. So I'll do my index.html. Okay, I can just cancel this startup part and then get my boilerplate. Okay, I just need the exclamation and then enter. And this will give me like the template that I need to get started. Okay. The next thing is to add a title to the title. It should be your name. So instead of document, I'm just going to put my name here. So let's say Venice. Okay. Then we are going to create a folder. Okay, we name it CSS and then create a file inside it. So I'll just create my folder here, CSS, right? And then inside that same folder, I'm going to have my style.css. But in case you can't hear me, please draw my attention. Okay. So I have my style.css here and I have to link it. Okay. So I'm just going to link it here. Okay. And I have my relationship to the style sheet. Right. And then the href, just showing the file it should go to. So it should go to the CSS, then inside the CSS, style.css. Okay. But now just to make sure everything is working, I'm just going to have a body here and then make the background color like blue or something, just to be sure everything is working. Okay. So I'll save it and then run to see. Okay, so now it means my CSS is working all right. Okay, so what I'm going to do, a moment. How will I even? Okay, so we are trying to make something like this. Okay, and you see, for all websites, let me. Uh, yeah, so let me just open the. Okay, you can even see it here. You see in the tab bar, you see this nice icon here, but ours is just rounded something. Okay, we want to make something like that. We want to look more professional, so we are going to use you can use anything, okay, but what or the site they are going to is the favicon.cc. Okay, so let me go there and show you what it does. Okay, so with this site, you can either import your own image and it will turn it to anything that you want to be, or you can draw anything that you feel like. So let's say I want to have this shape here. Okay, so I can draw anything that I want here. And inside the browser, this is how it will look like. You see, it's so terrible now. But you can take your time and then do something very nice, or you can just import an image, okay, and it will just get the thing for you. So let's say I have this. This is what I want to show here in place of this rounded something. So I have my design here. I can just download it. So download, right? So now it's downloaded here. What I can do is I can just move it to my project directly like that. So I've just moved it here and I can rename it. Right. Let me just rename it to something nicer. So like me, like anything. Okay. So to make use of this, you have to include it here as well. So it's also a link. Okay. It's a link, but then the relationship will be icon. Okay. So I'll just give it icon here. And then I'll point to where my image is located. So I'll do my href here. And then the me.ico. And all, like the file extension is ICO for the fav icon, the favicons. Okay. So I can just save and then refresh to see. Okay. So now I can see what I just downloaded there. Okay. It can be anything. It can be a nice image, or you can take your time and design anything you want here. Okay. You can design anything and then just, so for now, I'm just using this. Okay. So since the body is working, I mean, the CSS is linked, I can just get rid of the CSS. I made a color there just to confirm it works. Okay, so looking at this site, we can see that everything is being divided, like everything is in sections, right? And it's very different from like what we've done so far, like what we've been doing. Okay, so they have different sections, and the styling are also different for each division. Okay, so let's see how that is done. So inside my body here, I'm just going to have my H1. Okay, and it will be my name, right? We are trying to follow this. So I'll do my Venice here, and then a paragraph. Okay, let's say a programmer, like something like that. So when I save it, um, and go to my site, it looks so different from what we have here. You can see that this is somehow grouped, like it is grouped, but ours is just there. It has no, how will I say it? It's not grouped, okay? And there's this extension called pesticide, right? It's very good in debugging CSS code. So this will make you know like the elements that you have, the space and everything that is taken. That's the use of the pesticide. Okay, so now you can see that everything is on its own. They are not together. They are not grouped. Okay, so we are going to talk about divs. Okay, these are like content divisions, like that's how it's being called, and it's for um, it allows you to split your content. Okay, it makes you separate it, and then you can style it anyhow you want, like how the website was, like this website. You can design anything that you want for each section. So let's say I have my div here. So I bring my div here. Okay. So a div on its own, it doesn't do anything. Let me show you. When I refresh, I don't see any change here. But let me use the pesticide. Okay, so now you can see that there's this, the line has been, it's thicker now. Let me just inspect so that you know that there's a div there. So this is called the console. Okay, you can use it to debug anything that you want. So in the div here, even though you have the div, it does nothing on its own. Okay, it can't do anything on its own. You have to specify your height. Okay, if it doesn't have any height, it's not visible. The default height it's set to 0. But if there's content in it, it will just take the content of like the element, the height of the element or the content that you placed in. So we can debug or we can style our site with this browser console. Okay, but one thing about this is that it just helps you to debug your code, to know what is wrong and what you can do. When you refresh, you lose everything here. Okay, so this is just for debugging purposes. So in my div, I can decide to set the background color here. So let's say background color, I'm setting it to blue. You still don't see anything, right? You still don't see anything show. Like you don't see the blue. But when I give it a height, so let me give it a height of like 100 pixels. So now it's visible, it becomes visible. You can see it now. So this on its own, like I said before earlier, is 0 pixels. And last section, I remember saying that all the elements or the HTML tags have their own default browser properties. Okay, so the div on its own is 0, but if you give it a height or put something inside, it becomes that. Okay, so what I was saying, when you refresh, you lose everything. This is just for debugging. So inside my, let me go to the VS Code, okay, and then cut this and put it in the div. Okay, and then save. So when I save this now and check the div here, you can see it has a height now, like the div has its height as the 46.889 thing, right? That's the height of the div now. Okay. Now let's change the background color for the div so that we can actually see what we are doing. So we can find colors from the color hunt. You can just choose any nice color that we need. Okay, so let's say I want to just use this. So I've copied the code, the color code here. And then in my CSS, I can just call my div here, right? And give it the background color of that. But don't forget to bring your hash in front. So let me save and then go back. Okay. So now when I did that, you notice something. There's this space on top, there's this spaces, but it's actually supposed to be on top, right? And the left should touch, like it should touch the edge. But now you can see that it's being separated. Okay, so we are going to bring everything to okay. I'm going to open the console and then we try to make it the way we want. Okay, we just want everything to touch the sides, the edges of all that. Okay, so in yes, this div. Okay. The div. Okay. The H1, we can see that the H1 is taking this spaces, right? The margins which is the one on top is like 6 points. It has a height. Okay, so we want to change it. We want to change it to 0 here and see what happens. What is it? Wow. Okay. Right. So I can give it a margin, the margin left. Okay. And set it to 0. Let's see. Wow, it is for the margin row. Oh, okay. Belinda.
Hello.
Yes. So okay, let me just do this. In my style.css, okay, I'm going to make the body 0, like the margin for the body 0, so that it will affect all the 4 sides. Yes. So let me have the body here and give it a margin of 0. Okay. And now, okay. So when I give it the body a margin of 0, Okay, I could actually have done it here. Yeah, so margin of 0, you see it touches the both sides, but still the top is still like not touching the edge, and that is from the H1. So when I move over the H1, you can see that it's taking some spaces here, the start, and then the margin start, which is the one on top. The margin block end is below. Okay, so I'm just going to change that for the H1. So I want the margin top here to be 0. Okay, so when I made the H1 0, now it's touching. That means they all have default properties, okay, and you can change them using the browser. Okay. So let me just do everything inside my this. Okay, so the body, I want the margin left to be 0. Okay, you see, and it touches. I want the right to be 0 as well. Okay, and it goes to the edge. But then when I change for the body, the margin top, nothing happens because it is not affected by the H1. Okay, I made the H1 0 here. That's why it's, so when I uncheck, you see that the body margin top didn't do anything because the H1 property was still affecting everything. So when I bring the H1 margin top back, then everything is fixed. Okay, so this is like the box model. Yeah. And when you check this box here, you can see some padding, margin, border. Okay, so when I give this, the div, let me give it a padding of like 20, like 20 pixels. You see that the content inside the div shifts. Okay, I gave it a padding left and it shifted. Let me give it the bottom to see 20. And I can see that space is being made available down there, right? And let's say the border, like the padding top to, I make it 20. So I'll get a space on top too. Yes, so the padding is to create spaces, okay, inside the element. So we have the div, and the padding is moving the content inside the element, like the div. Do you get it?
Yes.
Okay. So when I do a border, okay, I can have a border around, or you can specify the part that you want the border to be. So it can be like, let's say, 30 pixels. Okay, let me just specify it inside here. So let's say I want to have a border around my div. Okay, so I can have the border and be like, let's say solid 20 pixels. Okay, so now I have the border around the div. And what the margin does is to separate it from its outside element. So when I give it a margin here, let's say 20 pixels, okay, it's because it was margin top, that's why only the top, it separated it from the elements or anything from the top. So if I had different divs, it will just make space between like the div on top and then the div, this div. Do you get it?
Yes, please.
Okay, we are going to have another short challenge, okay, to just explain the box model, how it works, and all. So we are going to have, we are going to create another div, okay. We are adding two more divs. So in my index, let me just add two more divs here. And we are giving it a class. So the first will be top, the second will be middle, and then the third will be bottom. So the class is just to help us style each of them. Okay, you can actually give it an ID if you want, but you can just give it a class. It depends on you. So I have the first div, I want it to be class top. And the second div, I just want to name it middle. And then the third div will be like the bottom, right? Okay. So I've saved it. Now we are going to give each of the two divs that we created a height of 200 and then a width of 200 so that it will be like a square. And then you add the background colors to it, like different colors. So in the style.css, I can just style my middle here. Okay. Give it a width of 200 pixels and a height too of 200. And then a background color. Okay, so you can actually choose any color, let's say red or something. And then the last div, we want the same style for it, but different color. So with height here to be 200 and the background color. So let's say yellow, yeah. So when I go back to the page, yeah, I can see the div that I've created. Because we specified the height and the width, that's why we have these here. Else it won't be visible. Okay, you won't be seeing it because all the width, the default height is 0. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to learn how the box model works. Okay. A moment. So I'm opening my console again. Okay. And I want to make it here. Yeah, I want it to be somewhere here so that I can see what I'm doing. Okay. And the top div, I want it to be like the main, like the size of the other two. So what I'm going to do is I'm just selecting the top div here and I can give it a height. So let's say my height is 200 pixels. And then my width should be 200. Okay. So when I do that, you see it's all in line. Okay. And I want to give it a padding too, so that the content inside this first div would okay, so padding. Let's say I gave it a 20 pixel. So what do you notice? What do you notice here? shifts the content and then increases the space, right? So inside here, we can get the total length here. You know that this is 200 by 200. That means the height is also 200, the width is 200. And then the other side, 20 on the right, 20 on the left. Okay, so now the width of this whole thing becomes 240, right? So the padding increases the size of the container. Okay. And let's say I want to add a border to it as well. So I can give it a border and like 10 pixels. Okay, let me make it solid 10 pixels. Yes, so the border too, when I add the border, it doesn't do anything to the elements, okay? It just brings the border outside the container, and it also increases the width. Do you realize that? So now the width becomes 260 here. Okay. That's how the box model works. Okay. And the last thing that you've not looked at is the margin. So as I was saying earlier, let's give it a margin bottom so that we know what it does here. So margin. So margin bottom, let's say 30 pixels. So it shifts the other containers, right? So that's what the margin does. And if you want it around it, you can just uncheck this, and then I'll just do margin, like 10 pixels. So when I do margin of 10 pixels, it affects every side. But when I specify like maybe margin top, it affects that specific one. So that's how the box model works. And the challenge for this part is to make the divs, okay, touch edge to edge. Do you get it? Like it should be touching edge to edge with this information. So the first div, you give it a border of 10 and then a padding of 20. The second container should be just 200 pixels, and then the third should be 10. But the goal is to make it touch. Okay. Like make it touch edge to edge. So we'll be ending here, and I'll be expecting to see the results. Okay, so you can do it and then take a snapshot of it and then paste it to the WhatsApp page. Do you get it?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so it shouldn't take more than 20 minutes. So I'll be expecting your solutions by 2:30. Right. Okay, so that's it for today. We have a program at 2, so we just end here at the box model and then continue next week.